Right now we're going to turn our attention to high school wrestling in the Region 8 championships, which are going on today starting at 10 a.m. with the semifinals at Egg Harbor Township High School. Want to bring in John O'Kane, veteran high school wrestling reporter. Good morning, John.
The veteran thing is going to stick. I like the Dave Matthews intro, man.
It's the nice way of saying old.
Yeah, that's exactly right. The veteran's a nice spin. I'm telling you, it sounds good when you say it about everybody else. When you say it about me, it just makes me feel good.
What's happening, Oak?
Not much. Excuse me, man. Fighting off a little bit of a chest cold here. Woke up this morning. Tis the season, right?
Yeah, the floor is yours for the next 10 minutes or so to give us a breakdown on Region 8 wrestling. We're into the semifinals starting at 10, and then we'll be into a bunch of wrestlebacks before we get into the finals, probably around 4:30. So it's a kind of an all-day affair. What was your impression of the quarterfinals? Were you out there last night?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But you know me, before I get started real quick, I wanted to give a quick shout out. You know me, I love my shameless plugs and shout outs. But
there you go.
A loyal listener of the show, the good friend of mine's son, Nasty Nate Martin. One of those things I call him Nasty Nate because he's the nicest kid you'd ever meet in your life. You know, kind of like I called my 6'6", 300-pound friend Peanut growing up. Nasty Nate, good dude, but he's a loyal listener, man. So I told him I was going to be shouting him out this week for sure. No
problem, man. We appreciate Nate listening.
Absolutely, yeah, good dude. So, but yeah, I was at the quarters last night. This morning is one of my favorite rounds. It's cool because the semifinals, if you win, you're guaranteed a spot in the finals, and you're guaranteed going through to Atlantic City. If you lose, you got one more match to win. So, you know, if you lose in these semifinals, you know, you're still close, but, you know, it happens all the time. Guys lose in the semifinals. They get a little bit deflated. They hit a guy in the wrestlebacks that's coming off of a win in the wrestlebacks. He's kind of on the upswing. You're on the downtick, and a lot of times those guys end up getting knocked off and things like that. So these semifinals are huge. That's why you'll see guys getting real fired up when they win in the semifinals because they know, not that they don't want to win the title, but this one already assured them a spot in AC if they win this morning.
Yeah, that's a tough mental bounce back when you're talking about losing in the semis because you got to turn around and you still have to win one more to get into that third, fourth match where you're guaranteed a spot. You used to have to win two to get to Atlantic City if you lost in the semis, but now you just have to win one. But like you said, it can be tough to really bounce back from that, depending on who you're going against. I mean, some of these guys in the semis, they're going up against a top seed. They know they don't have much of a chance, so maybe they're not as deflated when they lose. But some of these semis are very close matchups, and I'm looking right now at 152. I mean, what a bracket this is. You talk about Nick Bennett from Delsey versus Connor Krause from St. Aug, David McCullough from Clearview against Nick O'Connell from Southern. Either one of those matches could probably go either way.
Yeah, you're right. That's definitely the highlighted bracket of the tournament. That's absolutely loaded. All four of those guys could get on the podium at states. It's crazy to think that, you know, nobody else in that bracket, you know, I don't want to say nobody else has a chance, but like I said, those four guys are four state caliber level guys. Bennett finished second in the state last year. O'Connell has placed in the state before. Krause has been to states multiple times. McCullough's right there with them. Those are absolutely going to be a blast. I'll tell you what, I'm looking for the upset, though, a little bit. I know Bennett's the returning state runner-up, but Connor Krause is wrestling real well right now. They wrestled earlier this year. Krause almost got him. Bennett needed a late reversal in the third period to get him. I'm looking at a Krause-O'Connell final there. I think O'Connell from Southern Regional is wrestling his tail off. I'm not in the business of making too many predictions, but I think Krause is wrestling his tail off. I'm really looking forward to that Krause-Bennett match. That's going to be a battle. And O'Connell from Southern right now, he's just on another level. He's just got so much confidence right now. You know, earlier this year, his plan was to do the fifth-year post-grad year. He was going to go out to Wyoming Seminary, get another year under his belt of wrestling, but he's doing so darn well that Cornell came up and scooped him up kind of thing. So he's committed to Cornell in the last couple weeks here, and he's wrestling out of his mind right now. But, yeah, that 152 bracket is going to be real fun to watch.
John, another bracket that's really interesting, particularly with the South Jersey area, is 170. You look at three Cal kids in the semis with Bishop, Robertson, Cologne, but then you know the number one guy in there is John Stout from Southern Region, so he's not going to make it easy. But talk about that one. That to me is a really interesting bracket right there at 170, and unfortunately, possibly one of those guys in the semifinals might not even make it to Atlantic City.
Yeah, you're right. That's you guys are on, man. You know, that's another bracket. It's all four locals in terms of our impressive AC coverage area. That's the only weight in the whole tournament where all four guys are local guys. You know, random side note, 120 pounds is the only weight where we don't have a single local guy in the semifinals. But, Yeah, 170 is going to be fun. Now, Roberts and Stout and Cologne, I think you kind of expected to get there. Bishop with a nice win last night to get there. He's been, a little bit dinged up this year. He's kind of a wild card, but he's a tough one to wrestle. He's long, he's athletic, he's tough. He's been around for, he knows what he's doing out there. He could give Stout some problems, but Stout's another guy right now. He wrestles such a ridiculous schedule. Those guys up there. His father by design has for years wrestled one of the toughest schedules around. Those guys go up to Escape to Rock, and just wrestling in the short conference alone is brutal. Then they go out of their way, wrestle South Plainfield, Phillipsburg. They go up, win the state Group 5 tour. I mean, they are battle tested, and John Stout, the younger John Stout, he's already committed to the University of Penn to wrestle next year. He's really wrestling well right there. He's the definite favorite there. I'm looking forward to the Roberts-Cologne match there, too. I know Cologne was dinged up a little bit, missed some matches this year, but Roberts is tough. He wrestled Stout tough earlier this year. I know Stout got him pretty good at the in districts, but Roberts, I think, was within a point or two of him earlier this year at the Robin Left tournament. So, yeah, you're right. That's another fun bracket right there for sure.
Talk with John O'Kane, covers high school wrestling playoffs for the Press of Atlantic City. And, John, KJ Sherman, man, I told you he was going to make the semis. I predicted it on Twitter before the regions even started. This kid, freshman from Holy Spirit, he's going up against Ryan Figueroa from Hamilton. And the other side of that bracket is Tim Spatola from Delsey against Robert Woodcock of Southern. So another really good matchup, semifinals at 138.
I'm telling you, I got you beat. I predicted this when KJ was in 5th grade wrestling. So I beat you to the punch on that one. Yeah, he is. KJ is just a phenomenal kid, man. Like I said, I jokingly took credit for him last week because he wrestled for me at the middle school there in Galloway Township. But I take absolutely no credit for him at all because he knows more about wrestling than I do already. He's just fantastic. I mean, he's a guy. I spoke with him last night after his win. He beat young Sandy Kenner, the younger brother of the Kenner brothers that everybody remembers from the last couple of years. Quinn's at Ohio State wrestling right now. Trace was a stud too. And Cheney was a state qualifier last year. And KJ, the match was never really in doubt. I mean, it was close after the second. KJ gets to the state, takes him down. I mean, kind of cruised to the win there, rode him out at the end. He's just a guy that just loves wrestling. Like he was telling me last night, he's so genuine. He was telling me last night if he qualifies for states, he's probably going to end up crying like a baby. He's been dreaming of this for years. He was joking around and only half joking that he's the kind of guy his coaches have to tell him to stop warming up so much. Like if it was up to him, he'd wrestle 7 days a week. He just loves it. He's in it for the right reasons. He loves working hard. He loves pressing himself. He's not a guy that you got to drag through a workout. He was quick to thank all of his coaches. He's an easy kid to root for, man. He really is quality kid. And, don't be surprised if he gets into the finals there. I know he's the 6th seed, and Ryan Figueroa was tough from Hamilton, but KJ, like I said, KJ's been building for this moment for years, man. He's all in at this moment. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I'll tell you, one of the matches I'm really looking forward to this morning. Met him for the first time last night. I've been hearing a lot about him, but hadn't really seen him until last night because every time, a couple times I've seen the prep this year, he was out, but Michael Albergo at 132 pounds. He's wrestling the top seed, Justin Caress from Highland Regional. Albergo's really interesting, man. He's a senior now, first year in New Jersey. They just moved to Longport over the summer for his dad's job, I believe. But he was a prep state champion in Virginia. Now, Virginia does 5 different state titles. They do 4, I guess, public groups, and then a prep kind of parochial state champion. So he won the prep state championship, and he said he was ranked about 7th overall in the state between all the kids in his weight class. But he's a guy that's battle tested. He's a 2-time state finalist, a returning state champion. So he's kind of a wild card. He's a little bit of a lower seed because he didn't have a whole lot of criteria here in New Jersey. But he's a little bit of a wild card. I would not be. I don't think could even call it an upset if he beat Karras there in the final. He's very confident. Like he says multiple times, not worried about the seeds. Don't care who I wrestle. Just out there to win and get on to states. His goal, he's convinced he can get onto the state, win a state title, and I wouldn't put it out of the question. I know he missed some matches this year. He's got some tough losses, but he is fired up and focused right now. I'm really looking forward to that match at 132.
Johnny, look ahead to the bigger boys at 220. Kurt Driscoll, local kid from a Holy Spirit, only a junior, but he had a nice match on Thursday night, as we saw when I was there with you. But then he scored a nice win in the quarterfinals, but now he has quite the challenge against Tyreek Brown, who I would think is the overwhelming favorite this week, considering how dominant he's been out of Penns Grove.
Yeah, Brown's been really tough. I'm actually kind of looking at the other side of that bracket. We do the weight-by-weight rankings every week in the press, and I've had Cornelius and Daniel Corrigan from Hamilton ranked all year, but obviously Hamilton wrestled up there in Tri-County, and Cornelius being a short conference guy, like, those guys don't hit or have a whole lot of common opponents, but those guys have been at the top of my rankings all year long, and, really looking forward to that one. Both of those guys are long and tough and big, definitely some, I was joking around at the District 29 tournament. Some of these wrestlers nowadays, man, these guys it looks like a basketball team. Cornelius, 6'3", 6'4". Corrigan's another big guy. Sanino from Ocean City is huge. Stout from Southern's got to be 6'1", 6'2". Like, these are some big, tall, lanky guys. And, I know I always hated wrestling the long guys. These guys are cradling you off the handshake and stuff like that. Some of these guys, they're just tough and long, tough to get in on, awkward. They do a good job of keeping you at distance. They're tough. But I'm kind of looking at the other side of that. But you're right. I wouldn't be surprised if Driscoll pulls the upset there. But, you're right. I mean, Brown's definitely the favorite. He's super athletic, super tough in all positions. But, I'm definitely looking forward to that Cornelius-Corrigan match.
John, real quick before we let you go, Kevon Berry from Oakcrest, I believe he's still undefeated on the season at 195 pounds. I mean, this is really his weight class to lose, and he's been wrestling so well the last year and a half, 2 years. And is this a guy that can maybe challenge for a state title? I mean, I would think he's a guy that has the talent to at least be on the podium.
I definitely like his chances of getting on the podium. The state is tough. I mean, there's so many tough guys up there. I know he's unbeaten, but he's almost kind of a victim of his own success. So many teams have kind of avoided him this year and forfeited to him, kind of stayed away from him, that, he doesn't have a whole lot of, and I think he only had 2 or 3 matches that he didn't win bonus points by. So, he hasn't had the chance to go the distance a lot, hasn't been in a whole lot of, 1-point battles, things like that, and I hate that that's a knock on him because he's so good. Like I said, he's kind of a victim of his success, but in terms of the state level, you got, Cardenas up at Burke Catholic's, nationally ranked top 5 in the country, headed to Cornell. You got some real studs, but, I like his chances to get on the podium for sure. But, I wouldn't rule him out. He knows what he's doing. He's been around for a while. I remember he was at St. Joe's his freshman year. He was a guy we were already talking about as somebody that really knew what he was doing for a big guy. So I'm not surprised to see him where he is. Real quick too, looking at, a couple other guys, 160, Sal Manera, Ray Weed. Manera's kind of the experienced guy coming back. Weed, if I'm not mistaken, his last loss this year was about a month and a half ago to Manera. That was a major at the time, I believe, but I know, Weed's been closing the gap, but Manera's been wrestling out of his mind. And then big guy, you never know with the big guys, man. It's tough to predict those big guys, but I like the way Nick Sanino from Ocean City has been wrestling at 285 there. So, like I said, this morning's a fun round to watch, man. Definitely looking forward to getting out there.
Good stuff, Oak. What's your Twitter handle so people can follow the results?
That's right, OakRaider9. OakRaider9.
Good stuff, man. I know you'll be keeping everybody up to date on what's going on in Region 8. We appreciate the updates, and I'll see you out there today, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. The reception out there at EHT is tough, so the updates are tough. I'm going to try to get on the updates a little bit better this morning than I have the last few days, but I always appreciate talking wrestling with you guys.
All right, man. Get on it, bud. We need the info.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one. We'll see you out there.
Thanks, Oak.